I rented the diesel shop after last run. What the locomotives knew about us. I didn't rent the diesel shop because I like trains. I rented it because engines don't care about metaphors, and I needed a room where something heavier than us would ignore our performance. If you spend enough Saturdays holding a flashlight for a mechanic under a balky GP38 while your breath turns into crystals, the foreman learns your name. I had. So when I texted Gabe just before midnight, he called from a phone that sounded welded to oil. "You get Bay 2 from 12:15 to 1:00, he said. "Blue work lights only. Don't touch the cutout cocks or the battery knife switch. And brother, no trials after 2. He laughed the way men laugh who have dragged reputations through cold iron, and still like the people who built them. At 11:37 p.m., my phone delivered the sentence our marriage types without looking. Loadout ran late, quick debrief became a drink, might crash at the office, don't wait up. Lena doesn't lie, she's a choreographer of rooms. She can make donors love literacy and forklifts apologize to plywood. For a year we've been heroic at logistics and stingy with appetite. The person who made that accounting dangerous is predictable. Operations lead, gaffer in his tote, posture like a promise. His name is Eli. He stands exactly one respectful step from married women, a distance that keeps events from becoming accidents and husbands from sleeping well. The diesel shop lived at the edge of the yard, a cathedral of steel smell and old weather. 2 locomotives idled outside like patient beasts. Inside, Bay 2 was a lit rectangle, floor gridded with sand and work. The blue lamps washed everything in an honesty daylight is too polite to attempt. A yellow ladder leaned against the nose of a unit as if daring someone to be good at heights. I set 2 paper cups on a rolling tool chest and listened to the building's heart. Air compressors cycling, coolant pumps reminding iron that heat is a conversation. They came in at 12:16, their footsteps converted to percussion by steel. Lena first, hair pinned in the shape competence requires, heels hooked in 2 fingers because competence also learns surrender. Eli behind her, sleeves shoved, toed at his hip, eyes doing the perimeter math men who lift after midnight keep in their bones. He saw me first, the way men like him always do, and stopped just inside the safety stripe, palms visible, a respectful step back from the ladder. "A locomotive," Lena said, half amused, half tired. "Of course." "I wanted a room where weight commits," I said. "Say it under machines that don't clap." "In an elevator," she said, because fate syndicates its worst scripts. 2 weeks ago, between floors and nouns, I kissed him quick, mint, rehearsal. He stepped back. He said my name like a lock. I hated him for being exactly who he needs to be, and I hated me for liking it. Tonight I nearly followed the part of me that loves doors. I came here. "Do you want me to hit him?" I asked, hearing how even offering was theater. "I want you to choose me," she said. "Not rescue, appetite." Eli looked at the caution placard that says "Do not apply sand while wheels are slipping" like it contained a sermon. "Need me?" he asked her, not me. "I need you exactly there," she said, pointing to the yellow stripe, the respectable geography. "If I want less distance, I'll use your name." He obeyed. Good men do. It keeps the yard running and makes marriages harder to narrate. I climbed the ladder to the side platform and reached down for Lena's hand. She took it and let me pull her up into the narrow space where engines breathe. The hood under us vibrated with a low, stubborn patience. The blue light made our faces honest in a way mirrors never quite manage. I put my hand at the back of her neck, thumb in the notch I keep for emergencies that ought to be pleasures. Her eyes closed like a vote read into the record. I kissed her, jurisdiction, not apology. She answered like a woman who had been a plan all day and needed to be weather. My other hand slid along her ribs to her waist where elastic is the law I trust at 12:20 in the morning. I stopped because limits are furniture that don't tip over when iron is moving. She took my lower lip between her teeth and laughed against my cheek, the laugh that has ferried me over bad months without charging interest. "Do you still want to hit him?" she asked. "I want to thank him for stepping back," I said, "and I want to owe him nothing else." "That feeds me," she said. We stood with our hips against the handrail, the engine humming our names without caring. She told me the truth I didn't earn and she didn't owe. The kiss had been curiosity dressed as courage. The stopping was the only part that kept its shape in daylight. Tonight's almost felt like a door practicing her name and finding the hinge. I told her about the motel key I never asked for, the parking lot I left laughing, the stupid speeches I deleted before they could audition for plaintiff. Air hissed somewhere like a secret being let go. Eli cleared his throat in the polite key that keeps vans on time. "Loadin' at 9, he said to the safety stripe. "The truck wants 4 backs and 0 speeches." "Coffee at 9, I said, a treaty signed by paper cup. He nodded without moving. Men like him know how to be scenery that saves a scene. "Do something foolish," Lena said, "but survivable." I reached into my pocket and pulled a paint marker I'd stolen from myself. On the back of the handrail, small where a rag never reaches, I wrote, "Choose before currents." She took the marker and wrote along the inside of her wrist, tiny and smug, "Appetite, not theater." I kissed the ink dry, and the blue light refused to call it poetry. We kept our clothes. We kept our lives. We made heat that could climb down a ladder without tripping on its own intentions. The engine idled impartial. The building listened like iron does without volunteering witness. "Invite me when you're interesting," I said into the spot below her ear where sentences rehearse. "Not just when danger pretends to be charm." "I'm inviting you," she said. "Now and tomorrow when the fluorescent lights make me look like a system. Put your hand exactly here then." She guided my thumb back to the notch and the engine agreed by not caring. We climbed down and walked the length of the locomotive, reading the decals out loud like tourists of consequence: prime mover, dynamic brake, fuel shutoff. "This one," she said, tapping the label that says sand fill. "What is it?" "For traction when the rail's slick," I said. "A handful of grit that keeps the wheels honest." "Bring me that," she said, "when the room gets shiny." "Yes," I said, "and bring yours when I pretend to be smooth." We sat on the edge of the pit and let our feet hang above the track. She leaned her head on my shoulder and told me small truths. How her collarbones go rigid when a room wants her to be furniture. How she hates that competence photographs better than appetite. How she wants my mouth in the bad lobby light. I told her mine. How I count rungs when I'm scared. How I love the smell of lemons at the community center. How I'm done being merely good and ready to be generous. At 12:44, the yard master's radio barked a test pattern and the building voted for continuation. We wiped our handprints from railings and left one smudge on purpose where only we would know. We walked outside. The night had chosen a temperature and stuck to it. The shop door thudded behind us with the sound of earned sleep. Between 2 parked hoppers, we practiced turning tomorrow into prose. She pressed 2 fingers to my wrist, daylight legal, and I felt something reliable tune itself under my ribs. We made one plan. A diner that forgives pie at 8, 4 hours of lifting things nobody pays you to lift, fewer speeches. At 9, the community center smelled like lemon spelling competence. Eli was already stacking tables with that modest inevitability that teaches gravity manners. I carried the other end and let the sun on my neck. Lena moved through the room with a clipboard, and the mouth volunteers obey without punishing themselves. When she passed me, She tapped the ink on her wrist with 2 fingers, and the morning selected us without requiring a pre-show announcement. During break, I set a coffee by Eli's elbow. "Thanks for being the adult in the elevator," I said. "Thanks for renting a room where the floor doesn't lie," he said, eyes on the tie-down strap he was teaching to behave. He didn't ask for absolution. Men like him don't apply for guilt unless somebody writes their name on the form. We loaded the truck without theater. Tape squealed, a case complained, a list made peace with itself. Gravity kept its side of the bargain. We didn't tell anyone about the diesel shop. We taped a spent sanding nozzle cap to the side of our fridge under the magnet shaped like the ridiculous boat we bought one summer we didn't ruin. Sometimes when the apartment auditions for courtroom, we drive to the yard fence and watch locomotives breathe while we say nothing that needs minutes. Sometimes she texts come and mean stand next to me while I bend a room into competence and beauty. Sometimes I text come and mean watch me be a body before I become a plan. Sometimes we bring a friend who thinks proof is love and let them feel the floor under bay too. Steel, grit, a hum older than cleverness. We didn't stop admiring other people's competence. We did stop confusing it with permission. Heat is a temperature, not a verdict. Engines are witnesses that cannot be sworn in and will not lie. We eat before we try to win. We sleep when the clock loses its manners. We put our hands on each other in daylight like the sun still issues licenses. And when the gossiping part of the city asks whether we have anything to add, we say we rented a room that makes weight keep its promises, kissed under blue lights that charge extra for theater, wrote small words where a rag won't find them, choose before currents, and left before 2 because that's the law now. No trials after 2. Return the key. Bring grit when the rail gets shiny. Pull together.